Now for a closer look at President Biden's tax plan and the impact on individuals and corporations, let's welcome Congressman Ro Khanna of the 17th District of California, the heart of Silicon Valley. He sits on the Oversight and Reform, Agriculture, and Armed Services Committees. And Congressman James Comer of the 1st District of Kentucky is a ranking member of the Oversight and Reform Committee and is a member of the Education and Labor Committee. And yesterday, Congressman Khanna, we actually had a conversation with a member of President Biden's CEA team, and she talked a lot about fairness. And we tried to drill down on what fairness actually means, because it means different things to different people, and we really need to get a firm grasp. And my point was that if high earners are paying greater than 50%, which you just heard from that report, if you're at 55% or something like that, is that where, do you feel okay going to those people and saying, we think maybe you should pay 60, 65, 70% because you have so much? Is that fair?
Well, Joe, I don't think that will happen. I mean, we are talking about repealing SALT, as you know. I don't think the SALT deduction repeal was fair, because it basically taxed states that wanted to invest in public education. So if we repealed SALT, allowed for the deduction, and then increase the tax to 39%, you're not going to have the type of rates that you're talking about.
You listen to my 100 billion analysis and we're nodding. You really think that's possible that SALT's going to go?
I do. I mean, it's got a huge support in our caucus. You've got Senator Schumer pushing for it. But I will say this. Look, I have no problem with wealth generation. I think it's great that we have entrepreneurs. I mean, I heard your earlier segment. I'm not sure if Twitter is Mona Lisa, but the fact that people are innovating, that's terrific. But here's what's fair. What's fair is everyone should have a healthcare education. So what I say to people who've done well is, let's invest so that everyone has a decent shot at the American dream. I don't demonize the wealth generation.
Yeah, maybe it's more like a Picasso, reclining lady that you have no idea. You're like, okay, Congressman Comer, is it fair if there are people proposing 50, 60, 70% for you get to a certain level, or a wealth tax, which a lot of people that have accrued wealth, maybe they were lucky, maybe they inherited it. There's a lot of reasons, but many of them paid ordinary income on their earnings through their entire life and accrued this, and now it's capital gain. Is that okay? Is that fair because they have so much to just take it?
No, I don't think that's fair. I think that's bad policy. The Democrats in Washington have just really drifted so far to the left, they're not even recognizable. Used to, you would hear liberals say we want to raise taxes to be able to have more money to spend on more government programs. Now we've seen in Washington over the last few years, you can just spend, you don't have to even come close to balancing the budget. And I think their objective is more for trying to redistribute wealth than it is to try to generate more money for more government spending. So I don't think it's fair when you talk about the SALT deductions. A lot of the people in the Biden administration often forget about property taxes and the people that live in the high property tax states, and they were the losers in the Trump tax cut. So I think that this is something they need to think long and hard about. We're just now getting the economy back on stable footing, and a big tax increase is not the way to go.
Congressman, kind of the other thing that I think a lot of people out there, when we were having that discussion yesterday, we all would like to make a difference in terms of increasing opportunity across the board for Americans to try to solve some of our inequities and some of our problems. But a lot of people just philosophically don't think the government is very good at doing that. So if we did double the amount of revenue the government was taking in, do you have a high degree of confidence that that's going to make a difference for the people that need it to make a difference for?
Joe, I do think we have to prove that. I mean, it is true. A lot of the job training programs in the federal government have not worked, and we have to be more creative about partnering with community colleges and the private sector and show success. We have to have industrialization of this country. I mean, I don't understand why we can't agree that we should invest in making sure battery factories are in America, not China, critical technologies in America, not China. So if your question is that does government have to show it's competent to earn people's trust? Absolutely. But we ought to do that as opposed to just throwing up our hands and saying, well, government isn't going to work and let's just have China make these investments.
Right. There's always the notion that a lot of people that would be hit on the high end would rather do it through philanthropy. A lot of them, Congressman, and they just historically they've seen that their dollars in their view their dollars are much better spent if they can self-direct them into philanthropy instead. And history doesn't bode well for the argument that the government's going to do better than philanthropy.
But Joe, let me ask you if that's really fair. I mean, do you think that Jack Dorsey or the person who spent $2.9 million buying his first tweet should get to direct how America invests? I mean, maybe they're going to do philanthropy for some Twitter foundation. Are they going to be spending it to industrialize the Midwest, the South? Are they going to be spending it so that young black kids have a fair shot? I do think that Americans should decide, not just people in my district in Silicon Valley who made a lot of wealth. By the way, a lot of their philanthropy is outside the United States.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.